And welcome everyone. I am so happy for you to be here today in this business development session. I like to really kick this off and as a acknowledgement of how everyone is playing. I sincerely appreciate all of the continued work that we're doing together and the comments that continue to come in and the suggestions and feedback and the way we continue to collaborate. Today, we're going to be talking about defining your ideal customer and how we're going to bring all the things we've been doing together in order to define and identify your ideal customer. So a lot of the feedback I've been hearing recently is that I feel like I'm drinking out of a fire hose. And so I wanted to really take this opportunity today to slow our roll a little bit, to look at all the things that we have already provided and use this as an opportunity to really get succinct about who our ideal customer is. As we go forward, we're going to be talking about making your irresistible offer and a number of other things that's going to be really important that we're really crisp and clear on who that ideal customer is. And so we are going to go do a quick recap and talk about all the different pieces of the puzzle and see how they all fit together. This is meant to be a cohesive exercise where we are taking the collective body of knowledge and work that we've all done and really bring it together. And for those visual learners who see that not all the pieces always fit together, that's actually a true statement and that was done on purpose. And I wanted to share this with you because as we go through this, you may shift or change or modify some of the work that you've done up till now, and it's perfectly fine. The intent right now is for us to really land on who is our ideal customer so that when we continue our business development efforts together, we can be really crisp. And it's not an amorphous mass of possibility, but it's an individual that we're focused on. And we're going to talk a little bit about that more today. So let's begin with a brief recap. We've covered a lot of ground already. This is, at this beginning, we started with the perfectly written novel of your life. We asked you to take a look at all the different chapters leading up to this moment in time, this time in our history, understanding specifically what is it that makes today unique and special, and understand from that perspective what is that we want to do together and how we want to be together in our work together. But this perfectly written novel of your life, what it really is doing is it's showing you that even the things that you may not have seen as gifts in the past are all coming together in this time to really support and share with you what it is you get to do from this point forward. We then talked about a mental fitness as your lead magnet. And we really broke down the specifics around understanding, okay, so based on everything that we're doing together, how might you use a keynote speech like Shirzad has done with the YPO as a means to attract more customers that would be interested in the work you're doing here. So really thinking about the distinctions of what kind of tools and technologies that you have at your disposal to use mental fitness as your lead magnet, even if you're not positioning yourself as a mental fitness coach. And I want to be really clear about that. The intention here is that this can either be a tool in your toolbox or this can be what you lead with. But regardless, there are a lot of different ways to use all of the content and the strategies that we've put together to really help you build and grow your business. We defined your niche. And some of you may be thinking, well, wait a minute, I already defined my niche. Why are we talking about my ideal customer today? Well, what we did is we looked at all the different ways of the tribes that you can engage, and we went deep on one specific tribe. And that's one of the homework assignments that I had you do. But now we're going to go and refine that further. So as I'm speaking, if you have access to the Define Your Tribe worksheets, this would be a good time to bring those out and dust them off. I'm also going to ask, if you don't have a piece of paper and a pen, I'm going to ask you to pull that out as I'm going through the rest of this, simply because when we do some exercises today, I'd like you to be able to write some things down and then we can use that as a way to play. We looked about communicating the positive intelligence principles. So specifically within the context of mental fitness, defining your capacity to respond to life's challenges with positive rather than a negative mindset, understanding how mental fitness can fit into your overall arch and the work that you do as a coach, and sort of putting those pieces together. We looked at how you can scale your business by attracting and enrolling and retaining the individuals that you want to build into your coaching business using the platform as well as the tools associated with mental fitness. And then we looked at your money blueprint. We looked at exactly what it is that started. And I shared very specifically some of the things that I had as a child that became my money blueprint, and really understanding the context of where we get those thoughts and feelings about money. I then had you do a money mindset mastery where you went through and actually looked at all the different components of money and sort of what you are charging and why, and some of the both saboteur and sage thoughts that come up when you're doing your mindset of your money. And lastly, this on Monday, we talked a little bit about the 3 gifts technique. And so we just recently went through that part of the process, and we looked at the 3 different gifts and really broke down as far as you as the coach supporting people to get to their sage. And even when they're going through difficult times or traumatic events, to be able to understand those 3 gifts. These are all tools that will support you and will help you with today's session, as well as what's going to come throughout the rest of this program. So when we talked about defining your tribe, we talked about the paradox of growth. And I want to remind you that in the context of the paradox of growth, that the biggest mistake that most entrepreneurs make, even outside of the coaching industry, is they try to cast this wide net and they try to catch as many individual people and fish as they possibly can. And the mistake of that is that by going broad, we aren't actually able to define our niche and identify our ideal customers. So we're going to do the opposite of that today. We're going to really hone in on who are the tribes that you choose to serve, and then within that tribe, who's the one ideal customer that you really are going after to grow your business. As a refresher, the discipline of market leaders: choose your customers, narrow your focus, dominate your market. So we really started that way when we looked at sort of how to look at the different tribe opportunities and then to narrow your focus. And the context of narrowing your focus is really about identifying no longer a massive amorphous mass of a whole bunch of different individuals, but specifically one individual customer. Who is that one person that we're going to be speaking to? That will help us define exactly who we're reaching, how we reach them, the marketing that supports us to do that, and all the outreach efforts we're going to have. So this will allow you to really grow and be dominant in your market. So again, I don't need to go through each and every one of these steps, but this is, if you have your worksheets here, you've already filled this out. You've defined your tribe. You looked at the possible groups, the people you know well or passionately curious about. You know, you've looked at their challenges. And so what are the different problems and fears and desires that each of your tribes shares? And you're looking at that for each one of those individual tribes. And you're going to look at the unique skill sets that you currently have and how that matches up to your tribe, their needs and their wants. And this is one of the most important graphs we've done so far, talking about the intersection between the tribes you choose to serve, the challenges that they have, and the value you deliver. This is your sweet spot. And I want to call this out because as we're doing our work today, the tribes themselves, there's many tribes you can support. And this is from the feedback that I've received. This is one of the big things that a lot of coaches struggle with, which is, okay, so I have all these different tribes I can support. How do I choose? And so it comes down to, well, understanding each of the unique challenges of each one of those tribes, understanding the value that you specifically deliver as a coach, and where those 3 things intersect, that is our sweet spot. And ultimately, this is going to really support our work here today. When you think about your tribe, the tribe you choose to support, you're looking at the current situation and their desired outcome. Where are they today, and where do they want to be in the future? And that's really the focus here, because people are not paying for coaching services. That's the misnomer. They're paying for outcomes. You are a vehicle and a support mechanism that will help them get from their current situation to their desired outcome. And when you remember that, it'll really support you to connect those dots. And we're going to get clear on the outcomes. What is their current situation? What is their desired outcome? So as we get clarity around that, it's going to really help us support to dive into their ideal customer. And then we put it all together at the end of our last session when we talked about, hey, chaos is I am a coach and I help everyone. Clarity is I'm a niche coach and I choose to help my tribe. Consistency is I am a niche coach and I support my tribe for this many years. Credibility is I'm a niche coach and I deliver this kind of results to my tribe. And then ultimately the target of what we're going after is getting referrals. I heard you need solving this type of tribal challenge. And so therefore you must talk to this person. this is what we're moving toward. As you really serve your ideal customers at the highest level, this is precisely what it is that you're going to be doing. You're going to become known for the kind of work that you do. And then when somebody else has a problem that's being very, very well described about what your individual customer needs, then they're going to know who to refer. It's going to be you, because you're top of mind, because you've really connected with the core challenges of that particular customer. Which brings us to today. Who is your ideal customer? So in the context of defining your ideal customer, I'm actually going to ask you to think, I'm going to give you an example, and then I'm actually going to have you do some thinking about this. And this is going to be your opportunity to process and write some things down. And then, by the way, I'm going to stop sharing for 1 second, because what I want to make sure is that if everyone has the actual PDF and Word documents, I posted them in the chat, and I'm going to do that again just to make sure that you see them here. There's both a PDF version and a Word document version. If you haven't downloaded them already, please download them now. And what that will do is it'll allow you, as we're going through this work together, to get a jump start on the worksheet itself. And so you don't need to use this for the questions I'm about to ask, but I would just like you to have them accessible so that we can go through that specifically. And I'm also noticing a couple of questions. So let me take those questions before we go into the next part, just to make sure everybody's clear. Dino, I'm coming to you. Let's see here. Oh, Dino, you don't have your video on. That's fine. I'm just gonna unmute you. Maybe I will.
Hold on. Can you hear me?
There you go. Yes.
Yes. I'm in a part of the house that doesn't have great receptivity. So I just wanted one quick clarification, and that is, when you are saying defining a niche in a tribe, are you saying that as coaches we should serve only one tribe, or that if we choose to serve multiple tribes within the tribe, we should have a very defined offering?
Yeah. Thank you, Dino. So to be crystal clear, I'm telling you that your bullseye is one ideal customer. The ring out from the one ideal customer is the tribe that one ideal customer represents. And then every ring out from that, in terms of the bullseye, is going to be other tribes you also have the capability to serve. See, what ends up happening is that the big challenge that most coaches face is they're like, oh my God, I have these great tools. I want to help everyone. And I love that about you, right? I love that you want to support everyone. And yet the challenge that we find in this is that when you try to help everyone, you cannot define a niche. And so you don't become known for helping anyone. So the idea here is to really get clear and focus on one tribe, not all five that we went through that exercise. We're really going to focus on one. And within that tribe, one ideal customer that represents the whole. That's what we're going to be focusing on today, because that is your bullseye. So all of the content marketing we're going to talk about, and all of the referral systems, and all the idea, what is your irresistible offer, they will be tailored to that one ideal customer. And then the rest of this is going to come down from the perspective of, okay, so what if somebody who's not my ideal customer comes and asks me for my services? Fine. I'm not saying say no to the business. What I am saying is be very clear about who your ideal customer is, so that you can become known for that in the industry. Okay. Anita, you also had a question. I'm coming to you.
Yes, Bill, and it's not too far from Dino's question, actually, because I identify three tribes, and I guess it's because it's my passion. The first tribe was women with breast cancer who wanted to go back to work at the end of their treatment, and I guess it's also because I've been through that. That one, it was instant. In an instant I could identify it because I can relate to it and I'm passionate about. And I did another two tribes connected, I mean, to the mental fitness. Mm-hmm. I'm struggling a bit with two more. And I was wondering, well, do you really need to have five?
Yeah, you don't need five tribes. What I was actually doing in the context of that exercise was showing you to really start to pare down what are the pillars of the different individual people that you either have served or you really know, like, trust, and want to serve. And so the context of that was really for you to explore and really be distinct and discrete so that you could pick one. And this
Yeah.
is really coming back to what Dino's question was, is that it doesn't mean you can't serve these other tribes or that you
Yeah.
can't find creative ways to do that. But by focusing on one tribe and one ideal customer, it'll make things really simple in your marketing and your business development efforts. Otherwise, it's going to be a little scattershot, and it's going to really dilute your brand as well as your ability to connect with that ideal customer. Make sense?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Nita. Excellent. Okay, and one more. Okay, yes. And Liz, I'm going to get back to you in just a moment. Actually, you know what? Let me take Liz now, and this is going to be my last question, then we'll get back into ideal customer, and then I will have time. We're going to come back and actually play with this. So today's session is going to be a little bit different, and that I actually would love for us to be able to speak into what they're coming up with, some of the distinctions, so we can actually support each other and make sure that we leave this session today with high clarity of who our ideal customer is. And even if you want to refine it later, I really want us to get 80% of the work done today so that you can really do whatever small refinements afterwards. So Liz, I'm going to come to you and go ahead.
Yes. Hello. Yes. So I guess I really struggle with the idea of exactly how targeted we need to be and how niche we need to be. So my target is senior digital people who are unhappy with their careers. I mean, I could be even more specific if I need to be. And I guess I never know exactly how, how targeted to get.
So that's a lot better than, say, marketing agency people, right? Because that would be more broad, right? And it's a lot better than, oh, I like people in agencies, of all agencies. So what you've already done, you said by saying digital agencies, you've dropped it down. And by saying senior executives, now you have a sort of upper echelon. Now what I'm going to ask you to do is to actually choose one executive that you will support the most. So for example, you might pick CEOs because those CEOs oversee all of the other senior executives, right? You might choose, it's not the CEO, it's actually the CFO because there's somebody who's really realizing that they're having problems financially. And so all those things are there. But then you actually added the part about wanting to switch careers. Great. So where are they in their career path when they're making that decision? And as you get more definitive about who that individual is and what's triggering that need to switch the career, it's going to really support you as you do all the other efforts that we're going to be doing in this business development. So as a tribe, this is perfectly fine. What we get to play with today is really saying, okay, so of all the executives you can help in the digital agency world, let's pick one that we want to focus on. And you might come back to it after trying and saying, you know what, this isn't the one, it's someone else. And that's okay. But see, this is the whole point. We're going to pick one target. We're going to go after it with all of us, right? Put our full heart and minds and souls into this. And then if we find out that this is not the right ideal customer, we get to rule that out and say, okay, if this person comes to me, I'll take them on, but that's not my ideal customer. Through the actual work of doing this in real time, I've defined that it's actually not the person I thought it was, and here's the distinction that I've discovered, and then that becomes your definition. So my point is, by picking one today and working on it, it's going to make it so much easier for everything else we're about to do. Does that support you, Liz?
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Great. Excellent. Perfect. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. Like I said, when we get through the next section, I'm going to open up so we have time to actually go through and have some specific questions about that. And I'll be right back. So here, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Okay. So meet Connie. Connie is a coach. She's excited to serve her clients, but has struggled to make coaching into the career path she envisioned. She knows she can serve her clients powerfully, but she's unsure how to build a successful coaching practice. She senses that if she had a better command over marketing, she could build a financially lucrative practice and live the legendary life she's always dreamed. So this is an exercise to clarify your ideal customer. I shared that write-up with you because I wanted you to be thinking about the descriptive personalities and actually putting a face with a name and really thinking about all those components. And so in this part of the section, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. Have everyone just close their eyes, and we're going to take a couple of deep breaths and let it out. Nice deep breath in and let it out. One more nice deep breath in and let it out. We're going to do a couple PQ reps here. You can choose your favorite, or you can just listen to my voice, and we'll do this together. I would like you to notice the rising and falling of your chest or stomach as you breathe naturally. Just be completely focused on your breath. Notice the temperature of the air as it enters your nostrils and the temperature of the air as it leaves your nostrils. And with your eyes closed, I want you to take a picture in your mind of one of your tribe members. Someone you either have served powerfully or someone you would like to serve powerfully. Get a picture in your mind right now. Who are they? Avoid thinking about all the different people you can serve and just pick one for the purpose of this exercise. Is he a male? Is she a female? What's their name? I want you to think about their occupation. What is it that they do? If there's a descriptive title that they use in the industry, what is that title? Now think about when they're not their sage self. What are their top saboteurs? Where do they get hijacked? And what triggers them? What are the things that take them out of sage and into one of their saboteurs? And now think about their environment. Where do they live? How old are they? What's their education level? What have they already accomplished? What are their challenges and frustrations? How about their dreams, goals, priorities? What makes them happy? And if you were having a conversation with them right now, what would they want you to know about them? Take a nice deep breath and let it out. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Take that piece of paper and pen and just write what you remember. Let it flow. No structure. Write whatever came up for you in that moment. Take another minute. And don't worry about if you're not remembering everything, because we're going to do a couple other questions to prompt you here. I just want anything that's top of mind, I want you to be able to write it down. I see a couple of hands, and I will go to these hands now, and then I'm going to come back because we're not done with this exercise. But Sonia, I'm going to come to you. Go ahead. Go ahead, Sonia.
Thanks, Bill. So my problem was, or my challenge, is that I have two rather distinct niches, tribes, a bit fuzzy about that. And one is creative people, writers, and I'm kind of getting known in those circles through their organization that I've done coaching for, and through members of the organization, but also parenting, which is very different, and in particular, parenting and coaching leadership for, say, a CFO. So I rather like the idea of parenting CFOs, parenting, coaching, and leadership for CFOs, because that's a nice sort of combination. A lot of the things that they're not able to do in one is reflected in the other area of their lives. But that may be one that's more slightly better able to pay for coaching than the writers, many of whom are not, or the creative people. I'm also coaching some performers who are out of work. So it's like, how do I choose? Because they're so different.
I think what you just said is perfect. And I think you're trusting your intuition and your gut is always a good place to start. You know, what would your sage say about this? And I think when you just shared about the ability to pay for the coaching services, it actually creates a funding mechanism. And if you're sort of split and they're even on both sides, somebody that actually can help you scale your business and start to bring on some core clients will allow you to do some also pro bono work or reduce your rates for somebody who maybe can't afford your full rate services, right? So what I come to is what's going to help you build the kind of business you want to see so that your coaching business becomes as large as you want it to be. And I would say that's a distinction because we never want to treat our coaching business like a charity. And when we find that a client that we really, really want to support is not able to afford our services, I would look to get creative and say, is there somebody else that might sponsor them? Is there other opportunities there? Or can we use a primary source or a primary ideal customer to help provide us some financial resources to pull them in? So I share that with you because there's no right or wrong answers here. We're just making decisions. And so if what you're feeling is more of the CFO type, then I would go after that as your primary and then allow the creative types, especially the writers, to be secondary. Again, it doesn't mean you can't reach out to them or connect with them, but from your branding and from the messaging, architecture, all the things you're going to be doing next, you really want to construct this as your primary. Does that help you, Sonia?
Yes, it does. So I would actually, if I was doing anything on LinkedIn, it would be aimed more at the business sector, the CFOs, but then I could continue my relationship with the association that's supporting me coaching their writers.
Yes, exactly right.
Okay.
That's exactly right. Perfect. Thank you so much. Yay. Thank you, Sonia. I'm going to do Chloe and then Claudine, and I'm going to go back to to finish up this exercise, and we'll have more time. Okay. So Chloe, I'm coming to you.
Thanks, Phil.
Great. Go ahead.
Okay, so I've got two questions. The first question is, what if my existing client base is very different to my target?
Yeah.
How do I change my content to attract my ideal client without really ostracizing all the people I've been serving for the last 13 years?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting thing. It's a great question, by the way. I sincerely appreciate it. The idea is you already have momentum with one tribe, and you really are looking at how do you shift to the next tribe. So part of that is the natural, organic way in which you go after your new ideal customer. And so if you've decided you're going to make a pivot, what you're not doing is you want to assure your current clients that how much they mean to you, how much you appreciate them. It might be an opportunity for you if they haven't done the actual mental fitness work, to be able to gift that to them or give them an opportunity to realize just how important they are to you, so that there's all assurances that they know that they're still important clients to you. And as you move forward, then you're going to be looking at sort of how do you change your content strategy? How do you start to market yourself differently? And you're going to do a slow migration. It's not going to be a rip and replace. It's going to be a, hey, as I start to put out new content, it's going to be to attract this new tribe. As I start to put out different offers, it'll be to attract this new tribe. As I do more workshops, it's going to be attract this new tribe. And as you basically are going through this, there will be a natural transition through attrition. So you're not firing your current clients, right? What we're doing is we're going after the net new customers that will support us in making that transition. Beautiful question. Did I give you some things to think about and where to go?
Oh yeah, I love that you said I don't have to rip and replace. It's kind of like, because it's almost like, oh yeah, so that's great. The other question, which might be slightly messier and may not fit in here, is I've been known for conflict for 13 years and I have a specific methodology, and it is so similar to the mental fitness stuff. So where you've got sage and saboteur, I've got war and peace in the red and the green. It's like, okay. And I've always known that my work is applicable to loads of other things other than conflict, but that's been the in. And I'm starting to, so do I ditch the conflict, even though that's been my in, because I'm recognizing how widespread the work is? Or do I go the mental health? I'm sort of going, oh, I'm not quite sure what to do now.
What's interesting about what you're sharing is conflict is very specific and it's very niche. So the good news about being specific and niche like conflict is that it becomes easy for people to go, oh, I know Chloe's the perfect person to go deal with any type of conflict issues that you have in resolution.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose that, because that basically natural attrition, that's going to continue coming your way as long as you continue to be known for what that piece is. But what I would ask is who, and we can play with this more later, or we can do it now.
Yeah.
Who is your ideal customer? Who did you describe when you were writing down? And what does conflict fit, if at all?
Yeah, so I specifically realize I want to work with motivated professionals, and those professionals are women who are parents. And they are, I don't know if they necessarily resonate with conflict, but I think they're going to have a specific person that just, whether it's in their personal life or their professional life, that takes them away from their sage. And if I was being really specific, if I could have my ideal person, it would be them. And the thought of being that specific is terrifying, Bill.
It is. And yet, that whole reason, like being that specific, is what will help you grow your business the fastest. I mean, this is really the thing where it is counterintuitive. We think that by having sort of a broad spectrum of people we can support, it supports us, but it doesn't. That tiny little narrow laser beam is what's going to blow out your business and really turn it into something hugely successful. And so what I'm going to share with you is, if you're thinking about specifically conflict can still live in that domain with these individuals, and yet it doesn't have to. So you're at choice. Another option here is to think about how conflict and mental fitness do a dance together, and understanding the saboteurs in the sage in the same way of the war and the peace, and how you can evolve the story, which is to say, you're not letting go of conflict. You're saying, look, I've looked at all conflict. I've been doing conflict for 13 years. And what I'm realizing is there is a higher level here that I'm experiencing, which is the broader concept of mental fitness and where conflict fits into mental fitness. So where does conflict come from, right? And you start to look at the saboteurs, the activation of the saboteurs, and the judge, and then you start to connect those dots. And as you're connecting them, you're starting to draw a bigger picture of, it's great, we're going to deal with conflict resolution, but after that, we want to strengthen our mental fitness so that we have fewer conflicts and eradicate them entirely. So that story holds, right? It's not like, oh my God, she was doing mental fitness and now she's doing surgery. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not like, there's a natural progression of what this actually comes from. Makes sense?
It does.
If I can also add a little bit to that, the way we get differentiated as coaches who do the PQ stuff is just think about conflict. Most people who are working on conflict help people develop insight about what is causing their conflict, but do not help them build the muscles underneath the insight so that they are more effective in applying those insights. So all of a sudden you're saying, you know what? I am a differentiated coach. I bring in the same, even better insight than most in conflict resolution, but I send you home with homeworks about muscles to build so that you don't have just an intention of not falling into the conflict next time around. You actually have the muscles that prevent you from
Yeah.
falling in. So you don't have to go at all away from conflict. You can say you bring in a muscular, more sustained way of helping somebody with that same issue. By the way, that goes with every single niche. Every single niche doesn't have to redefine itself and say, I'm a mental fitness person. Every single niche can say, I am the best in this niche in the world because I help you not just develop the insight, but also the muscles that enables those insights in action. That's pretty powerfully differentiated. And it's true, right? Every niche here, every single person's definition of it, I can look you in the eye and say that if you work on those 3 muscles, you can make better and deeper progress in that particular niche.
That is super helpful. Thank you.
Excellent. Claudine, with your permission, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and finish up the exercise, and then we'll open this up and I'll start with you. And we'll continue there. Okay, so. So here are the questions that I was asking. If you haven't written these things down, these are the questions that you heard me say in terms of the occupation and descriptive title. You'll see this all on your worksheet. What are their top saboteurs? What are their known triggers? Where do they live? How old are they? Are they more likely male or female? What's their education level? What have they already accomplished? So all within this, we want to put this into the worksheet itself. These were some other questions to prompt to think about other things about where do they hang out, right? Where do they hang out? Well, in other words, where do they spend their time? How do they get their information? I mean, you see this in terms of some people get everything through a newspaper, other people are watching television, other people are getting online through social media, they get all their content and news that way. What are their challenges and frustrations? What are their goals and priorities right now? What are the brands they like? Even things like that can be a signal. If you know that there are specific brands that they wear or for brands that they really have affinity toward, having those associations and understanding those brand qualities will actually give you a better insight as to who they are and what they're about. What's the preferred form of communication? Do they like to text, email? Do they prefer to have phone conversations, Zoom, whatever it is? It's helpful for you to know that so you can know how to really connect with them. What phrases and exact language they use, especially if you're in an industry. A lot of buzzwords will be very supportive. If you understand that a CFO or a CEO wants to use specific language, having that language built into your content will help you attract them. And then if you know, like, what are their financial situations? You know, we talked a little bit earlier about having people who are in the creative world, especially copywriters or writers themselves, may not have the greatest financial setup. So if that's the case, what can you do? What are the ways for you, if that's really your audience that you're going after, what can you do to be creative about how they can invest in the relationship with you? What does their average day look like and what makes them happy? If you think about these things, it'll start to give you that really crisp picture of who they are. And so this is the opportunity to go deeper. I really want you to think about who this ideal customer is. What do they do for a living? How do they spend their week? What do they do outside of work? Where do they get their news, right? How much money do they make? And how do they feel about their job? Some people actually already identified, hey, we want to look for people who are looking to change jobs or change careers. If that's the critical tipping point, how would you know it? How do you know that somebody is actually looking for a new job? What are some of the indicators? What are sort of the early indicators that would support you to know to reach out and have a conversation with them? What are their concerns? What aspects of their life personally affect how you might approach them? So based on their ways of being, how can you make sure that you're connecting with them in an authentic way? If you can, tell about their history. What happened in the past up to this point? You know, did they have some traumatic event in their lives? Did they get divorced? Did they have an issue or something that come up in work? Did they lose a lot of money on a bad investment, right? How do they feel about what happens? Perhaps a former job or experience or a trip that they took. What is sort of the current interested in? What are they currently interested in because of their history? What are their family and relationship statuses? Are they married, divorced, single? Do they have children? How many children? Does anything about their relationships have a bearing on how they might use you as a coach? And what is it about having a rock solid coach that matters to this person? How does it solve a need, ease a pain, make them feel good? And how does it make it better in their life? How does it make their life better? And what sorts of thoughts should go through the person's head right before they decide to engage you to be coached? What's the final straw that makes them pull the trigger to engage you? See, all of these things are going to come up in future sessions as we work together. When we talk about what's your irresistible offer, the art of the close. And as you're thinking about it now, this is going to create the framework that will really support us. The more you can dive deep into your ideal customer, the more effective it's going to be when you come back and you look at this information as you start to build out the other components. And so I'm going to give you your homework that we're actually going to be doing, and we'll have some time to actually process this right now. It's really simple this time. I just want you to complete Define Your Ideal Customer worksheet. I posted it in the chat. It's also available to you in the community, but I want to make sure that you have it as a Word document, a PDF. Go ahead and start filling this out. And as we're working today, we're going to give you an opportunity to share what you've written down. So if you have questions or you want distinctions, we're going to make sure that everybody gets that opportunity to share. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing. And Claudine, I promised that I would come to you first, so I'm going to come right to you. Go ahead. Oops, nope, sorry. Try that one more time. I'll come back to you, Dave. Claudine, there you are. Oh, you're on mute. There you go.
Thanks, Bill. When we did that journey, I was a little surprised who came in to my visualization. I can tell you, I know who exactly it is, and Bill is a COO from my past life. And it was so clear because he actually represents a lot of the ideal client. I'm just so surprised how it came to space. One of the things I realize is, as I've done this work with you and others, and I'm getting tighter on it, is it's a lot of my own pain points. Right?
Yeah.
I've lived it at some point in my life, probably closer the last 3 to 5 years. And some part of me, because I've transitioned through it, I'm not done, I'm evolving through it. You know, when you ask some of those more insightful questions, because I getting their language, so it falls on their listening. And so I've been thinking of like the market research to get that, or to make calls to some of those colleagues. I was just kind of curious if doing market research, do you put that out like on a Facebook, LinkedIn, sharing some of the ideal client description that at least I have hold of right now in this evolution? You know.
So the risk with market research is, I mean, as someone who's, ran marketing agencies, that's always what clients want. They always want to know exactly how do I not make a mistake? I want to do all the research up front so that I can go and have this all defined. And what I find in this context is that it can get in the way of you get out there and actually doing the work. The best research you can possibly do is actually to connect with your ideal customer, try on the language that you're using and see what resonates. The more people you speak to that are your ideal customer, you'll get that feedback. You'll know if your irresistible offer doesn't land, you'll know that, and you'll understand why, and you can have conversations about that. When we talk about some of the next steps and we go through this work together, I'm going to share with you what are some of those distinctions that you're looking for when you're actually testing out your offers. So when you start to think about the research itself, I would not get overwhelmed with this. I find that what ends up happening is people end up using research as a way to not take forward action of actually connecting with their audience. And so if it's something you want to do that's very fast and you get some sort of quick down and dirty information that you can then play with, great, but don't make it a prerequisite to really engaging and connecting with that ideal customer. Make sense?
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it.
Great feedback. Betsy, I'm coming to you. There you are. Go ahead.
There I go. Hi, Bill. Thank you for so much of this help that you're giving us. I really, really appreciate it. So I've been transitioning from being a leadership coach, mostly in corporations, some one-on-one clients, but mostly in corporations and government. And I'm moving to small business. And I have two areas, but the first one is female entrepreneurs who've been knocked off track from progress toward their vision during this, I used to say coronavirus time, but now it's more than that.
Yeah.
And so I had done some videos, and I realized that I made myself the example. I talked about my vision, my wanting to break through boards when I was getting my black belt in Taekwondo, and focusing on the board would not allow me to break it. I had to see the other side of it. And so I was thinking that the board is really a lot of our saboteurs. So it sounds good, but I'm not sure it really makes, the right message for these female entrepreneurs.
Well, and I think part of this distinction is going to come down to how are you defining what gets in their way or what the board is. Because what's really important about that analogy is when you say female entrepreneurs, you are defining a niche right there. But then underneath that is the obstacles that get in their way. What we're experiencing right now is temporary, meaning like it's changed the entire world. Absolutely. And the gifts that come through it will absolutely be with us. But again, we're not thinking about this. If you think about the next 10, 15, 20 years and thinking about this as the beginning of that process, the question that I would ask is, what are sort of the common threads that these female entrepreneurs are likely to experience? Is it about diversity and inclusion? Like, that's very specific. Is it about the understanding of compensation or not being paid as much as their male counterparts? That's specific, right? So you start to think about what are the laser beam focuses that you can put into this space where you can really understand the biggest challenge they face. And so rather than saying they're overcoming obstacles, which is general, you're looking at a specific obstacle that is common to the women you choose to serve. Does that make sense?
It does. And so I've been talking about self-doubt and lack of belief and fuzzy visions.
Great. So
are those clear enough?
Well, but one of them is, right? So the question is, which one are you choosing? So if it's women with imposter syndrome, right, that can be one of the situations where they find themselves advanced in their career and suddenly they don't believe they have what it takes to be in the position they're in, right? That's a very specific idea. So if that's something that you want to play with and go for, absolutely. Like, that is a definite, like that will be a honing beacon that will bring in women entrepreneurs to your practice. Other ones, what you want to think about is, are they specific enough? Would a female entrepreneur be able to self-identify? And that's really what we're talking about is once you've defined your ideal customer, the messages you're putting out there, when you describe the board that they want to break, do they clearly get what that board is? Because general like obstacles or specific issues, then that's general and that's not going to be clear. But if you're like, look, we're going to break the following board, right? Here's what it is. This is what most women are experiencing right now, that my tribe anyway. And then you help them understand, and then they self-identify that that's exactly what they want.
So define the board.
Yeah, the board. Oh. And I understand as a black belt, you've probably kicked like 4 or 5 boards. I'm saying just pick one.
Yeah, right. Well, I tell you, it was hard. Yeah. The other thing that I was thinking about, and I could do, most of my work with the female entrepreneurs, and yet I have, I know a lot of school administrators who are in, I don't know how they're doing it, because they've got to keep themselves up and going, and they've also got to keep the teachers and the people who are on the front lines up and going.
Right.
So, so I know people who are in that
and
area.
So, and notice the distinction, and I want everyone to hear this because it's really important. What Betsy's saying, everyone has at some level the idea that, hey, I have all this, the tribe that I want to go after, the specific ideal customer I want to go after, and then there's all the other, and the other are really important to me. That doesn't mean you can't proactively reach out to the school board and say, I can support you, here's what I can do and what I can offer up. It just means that when you're thinking about the holistic growth of your business, you're not going to be scattershot. So for example, if what you're really doing is you're defining a single board for women entrepreneurs, then you can individually reach out to those other people that you know that need support and offer up your services. But what you're doing from a communications perspective, from a marketing perspective, from a branding perspective, is you're being very, very myopic about one individual ideal customer. So that way it doesn't blur the lines and it doesn't become confusing.
Okay, and here's my last one, because what you said fed me. So with the videos that I've created, and I've talked about this board, maybe my offer is something about defining what the board is that you are trying to, that you are breaking through.
And again, I appreciate the analogy of the board breaking and the connection back to Taekwondo, but don't let that get you dilute who it is you're going after, because when you, and so in a coaching session, you absolutely want them to define what the board is. But when you're actually thinking about who your ideal customer is, you need to be able to know and identify, here's what they struggle with. Because when you can actually put those words, it's like, oh my God, she already knows me. That's what they want to see when they read an article. They want to say, oh, I'll help you figure out what your board is and break through it. That's general, right? That's where most coaches struggle, and that's the distinction. And so I'm being very specific about this because this is a common trap. Most coaches go general because they think it's going to support their growth, and it doesn't. The more specific and the more niche and the more you're very like you're finishing my sentences, that's what the people are going to hire you. Because frankly, when you look at it on a one-on-one basis, you only need 40 people that you can coach on a one-on-one. So it's not a big number. You know, and there's 7.5 billion people on the planet. I think you can get to 40 with whatever highly defined niche you decide, you know?
Okay.
All right.
Great. Thank you. Thank you
Thanks,
so
Betsy.
much.
David, I came to you before. I'm coming to you now. Oh, here we go. There you go. And you're on mute.
Very good. Very good. Hey, thank you so much. First of all, I definitely want to thank Shahzad on the one of his early conversations. He talked about Buddhism and so forth. And I had, you know, my faith tradition, but reading a book by Thich Nhat Hanh around that has really brought a lot of clarity around where this journey is going for people. So thank you for that. My question for you is, so my ideal people I work with are the middle managers, but I'm thinking my marketing needs to be after the decision maker. So I'm aligning with the VP of operations because of startup companies, because they're having all this heartburn for people not connecting and grooving. And so if I'm not after, so is my marketing after the decision makers, what I'm asking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I mentioned this a little bit earlier about the funding source. So there is a distinction between your ideal customer and the sponsor, right? The sponsor is the person who pays for the coaching, and your ideal customer is who you actually do the coaching with. And that's really an important distinction. So for example, when I do corporate coaching, the person who's deciding on the agreement is the head of learning and development, right? That's the person who has the budget for coaching, and that's who's hiring me. And so while she's my ideal customer from a sales perspective, like who I'm going after to help support, like why I should be the one that she selects as a coach, the truth of the who I'm actually coaching are the executives that she supports. So you're making that a really important distinction, David, especially in corporate America, where you want to be able to have both of those. You want to be able to know who is your ideal customer that's going to hire you, like the sponsor, and who is the person that you're actually coaching. And it's important that you really distinguish both, because then when you're talking to the person who's hiring you, you can talk about your expertise for the people that they want you to serve, and that's what they want to see. So all of your content, all your marketing, all your strategy is the actual ideal customer you coach, and the people you're going after to hire you can be very different from that because they're the decision makers. Great question, and thank you for bringing that in space. Okay, Wendy, coming to you.
Hi, Bill. Thank you so much for all of this. I have to acknowledge that this topic just gets me way deep into my saboteurs. Probably Stickler gets really activated. And I start thinking about individuals that I've coached and I've gotten good results with. But I don't know, I'm still struggling with this. And yeah.
You're not alone, Wendy, and so that's why we're doing this right now. So let me meet you where you're at. What are you struggling with specifically? What's the challenge?
Well, specifically, I think about, okay, so this individual or that individual, and then I don't feel like there's enough specificity. I mean, I could say that a lot of the women that I tend to get results with tend to be hyperachievers, which is not one of my saboteurs.
Sure.
30-ish, newish managers.
What I want you to really hear from me is that this is a way to help you guide through the rest of the exercises and work we're doing now. And so I said this earlier in the session, but I want to reinforce it right now, that when you make a choice, it allows you to go all in on that choice. And then if it's the wrong choice, you get to pivot. So that's what entrepreneurs do. Like when you really hone in on the one ideal customer, and then you find out for whatever reason that it turns out that either it's not a good fit, or they're not the ideal customer that you thought they were, or there's changes, that new information that comes in when you start working with them, you don't have to keep this one ideal customer for the rest of your life. So that's part of where the stickler saboteur shows up, is it's got to be perfect. It doesn't. Right? The part of this is we're working through that process. As Betty Sproul likes to say, every master was once a disaster. I'm asking you to get messy. And the way we get messy is to actually put this all together and say, I'm making a decision. I'm going to go after it. And then I'm going to look at my results, because the results don't lie. And what we're going to find out is that anything that's missing or is not in the space, we can get to pivot that and do our best. And from a sage perspective, the way of the sage is ease and flow. And when we look at sort of the ease and flow, this should be easy and flowy too. Not just like, so when we're getting activated, or our saboteurs are getting, let's do some PQ reps, drop back into our body and just see what's possible. And if you're whittling it down to 2 or 3, pick the one of the 3 that you think is going to serve you the most, and you'll be able to serve the highest at the highest level, and see what happens. From there, you can always pivot. From there, you can always change it. But the point is, let's stick to something that you can do the rest of these exercises with and not have it be cloudy for you. Because the worst thing we're going to do is we go on to the irresistible offer. If you don't know who you're talking to, the offer will not be irresistible, right? Because we're going to be talking to an amorphous mass. So why I'm asking you to do this is to actually just to go ahead and just choose one. And even if it's not the perfect choice, you'll know. And what is a perfect choice, right? Again, it comes down to if they're 80% of the way there, you're probably going to be able to figure it out with them. Make sense? Go ahead, Shirzad.
One thing I want to add is, to the extent the niche strategy has been a good strategy until now, the world of the internet has made it that much more important for 2 reasons. One, there is so much noise in messaging that unless your messaging is incredibly targeted, it gets lost in a sea, in an ocean of other messaging. So that's why you want to be incredibly narrow, so that it stands out from all other stuff and attracts the person who is your person. The other thing is, because of the global nature of communication right now, you can be as niche as something that only appeals to 1 in a million. And yet, because of the power of the internet, that 1 in a million can find you. And if you're trying to be any more general than that, nobody will find you, because you will not break through the noise. So appeal to 1 in a million, and because you triple down on it, you know where to find them and they know how to find you. And then they remember you, right? So if this has been an important strategy until now, it becomes a crucial strategy now because of exactly the dynamic of what's going on.
Great, thank you.
Beautiful. And we are at the top of the hour. And so I want to thank everyone for your participation today. I really appreciate everyone speaking into what they've experienced and really speaking into your ideal customer, and the questions and the distinctions you're making is really serving the entire coaching community. And I appreciate you being here today.